Said I remember when we used to send, hey, the government town, town, and Georgie would make a firelight. I say wood burning through the night. Then we would go feel for it. So when I share with you, my feet is my only carry. And so I've got to push on through while I'm for a meeting. Everything's gonna be alright. Oh. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright now. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright now. Everything's gonna be alright. No, man, no cry. No, man, no cry.
You can move your body.
No shed no tears. No woman, no cry. Ask myself again, man. Ask her. Oh.
Wake it up.
Oh, no, woman, no cry. Oh, no, woman, no cry. Oh, no. Oh, no, woman, no cry. Oh, no, woman, no cry. Yes, I know. Yes, I know. No, woman, no cry. That's it. No, woman, no cry.
So another song I'm going to play for us. Let me announce it. All right. Okay. It's one of my favorite Irish songs, Wild Mountain Time.
Oh, the summertime is coming, and the trees are sweetly blooming, and the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will he go, does he go, and we'll all go together to black wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Will he go, does he go? I will build my love a tower by yon pure crystal fountain, and around it I will place all the flowers of the mountain. Will he go, does he go, and we'll all go together to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather. Will he go, does he go?
How you all doing this morning? You're great? You're good to go for the second day. Awesome. We have our first speaker is already ready.
my true love, he were gone, I would surely find another where the wild mountain thyme grows around the blooming heather. Will he go, last he go, and we're all alone together to go by the mountain thyme all around the blooming heather. Will he go, does he go, and we're all together, to the wild mountain thyme, all around the blooming heather.
Thank you, Meredith. Got ya.
Does he go, will he go, does he go?
Wow. Wow. Great, right?
Yes.
Great. All right. So I'm going to hand over to the moderator of today, who is Dr. Ruth Raikanti. So she will be moderating the session today. Over to you, Dr. Ruth. Welcome to day 2, everyone.
Thank you so much. Hi, how are you guys all doing today? Excellent. My name is Dr. Ruth Raikanti. I am a psychiatrist and a consultant here in San Francisco. And I'm very grateful that Kunli has organized this and has given everyone here to be a part of this wonderful experience. I apologize, I am not very familiar to Zoom, so I'm learning this for one of the first times, but I think so far it seems pretty manageable. Kunli wanted me to sort of recap from what happened yesterday, and it looks like there was a discussion on what it really means to be, first and foremost, I think, a human being at this time of COVID, an unprecedented event, as well as looking at what the role is for people such as artists, and what is it that we as artists can do first and foremost for ourselves in terms of our own well-being, and how we can keep our own creativity flowing is one of the topics that was discussed yesterday. Today we're going to be getting into a awesome jam-packed events. We have several speakers. We're going to be starting off with Ms. Stephanie Rye. I apologize if I'm not pronouncing some of these names correctly. But we're going to be starting with leveraging technology for community art therapy in global health crisis. We're going to have that followed up with a musical performance by Ricky Candle, along with a dance of resilience for families, where Brittany Cleland is going to be one of the speakers. And then we have several panelists who are going to be discussing what it means to be artists as collaborators and stakeholders in the global health crisis. That's going to be Dr. Jenny Gubner and Cheyenne Meese, as well as Mbolo Aloa. Sorry if I completely butchered that. And then Elaine Poggi, and she's going to be talking about photography and healthcare and the healing images. That will be followed up with the question and answers, as well as an interactive arts workshop with Sarah Hintz, and reactions and reflections with Camilla Rodriguez-Sackburn. If you have any questions or any comments at any point, please feel free to drop them in the chat box, and I will turn it over to Kunli to see if he has anything else to add.
I would say that for many of us, we were not able to access the link yesterday. We had problem. I don't know what happened actually. Quite a number of people actually reached out to us asking for the link again. We have about 300 people signed up for this, and we had about 100 yesterday. So imagine about 200 people were not able to come into the Zoom yesterday. So we did our best by sending emails severally yesterday so that people could actually have access. And I'm glad that there are many faces that I didn't see yesterday that we're seeing today. So hopefully we can have more people join us today. And also for those that were not able to be part of this experience yesterday, there is a daily recording of this conference. So if there's any time at all you miss out, the 3 days will be emailed to us. Day 1, day 2, day 3. We won't send it now until probably Thursday. So we'll send it. All of the sessions are being recorded so that we can actually go over it. And if there's anything you want to pick, you want to learn, you want to connect, we can also always find those resources. Saying that, I don't think I have much to say than to get ready for the day as we welcome on board
Can I add one thing before you introduce the speaker? I'm Mindy,
yes.
And I'm Tech. And for those of you that are new to, because you had mentioned that you're new to Zoom, if you go to your upper right-hand corner of the screen and you hit you can click on those little dots, and there's gallery view where you can see everybody, and then there's speaker view. And it's nice to have the speaker view when it's one person speaking, but during Q&A you can switch it over to the gallery view, and it can be just helpful. So right now I'm on speaker view, and I have Kunle very large and then little people at the top, and it's a nicer way to sort of enjoy the conference and the speaker when it's one person speaking. So that's I'm sorry to interrupt. Thank you. Kunle, go ahead.
All right. So yesterday we also sent in the slides for the presentation from the speakers. And so today also we'll be sending in slide that the speakers will be sharing with us, and then we can go over the slides. So without wasting time, I will be glad to welcome on board today our first speaker of today, Stephanie Ray, a board art therapist from Florida.
Thank you.
Great.
Good to see everyone. Can you see my screen? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you, please.
Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I think I'm sharing it correctly. So my name is Stephanie Ray, and I'm a board certified art therapist, registered mental health counseling intern, and I'm a registered yoga teacher. So expressive arts are kind of my wheelhouse: art therapy, expressive therapies, movement, all the things, right? And so I'm here just to share a few things today about how I'm using technology and how an organization that I'm involved in is using technology, as we've all had to shift gears. So I'm just going to get into it because I know our time is precious, correct? I do want to start out by saying something that's been on my mind, just to recognize, you know, take a moment for myself anyway, just to recognize what everybody's going through. You know, as I sit here, I know how privileged I am to be sitting in a house with lights and water and internet and food and all the things, right? And I'm still completely feeling all of this. So I have just a lot of love and compassion in my heart for people around the world that are truly suffering way more than me. So on that note, here is me pre-COVID. and here's me now.
Stephanie, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hi, this is Jenny. Can you click on your presentation mode to make your slides even bigger?
Of course.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Thank you. All right, that's me post-COVID and me now. So my work has mainly been with trauma, or people that have suffered trauma. Of course, now that's the whole world. So, and I think to some extent, it's many people that we don't even really think about. And now we're thinking more about it. Right now I'm working one-on-one with clients that are survivors of trauma or have other diagnoses. And I'm primarily doing expressive therapies with children. Typically I've gone in their home, and now I am not in their home, or they come to my office, but mainly I was doing in-home art therapy. And pretty much everything has moved online out of the people that could, right? So I seem kind of nervous right now because like all my people are here, all of you that I don't know, and I'm just excited to be here. So I'm it's like nervous, excited. But I've been teaching classes on Zoom, art classes, for a while, I'd say like 5 years, and I've been a live streamer, and I paint online, and it's an interactive platform. So I'm, you know, comfortable with technology. from that dynamic, as you can see. What I'm noticing is that it takes a greater amount of energy to do art therapy or expressive therapies online, almost at a theatrical level. Sometimes it feels like just getting the animation that I need to grab the attention. I'm finding that I have to really find attunement, and that's kind of what Kunle and I and the other movers were doing in the beginning of this, not even planned, is actually how we met, through dancing together, not planned. And that is through movement or voice or just some kind of way that you find a rhythm to begin working together. And that really helps. When I'm in a home, that tends to happen easily because there's almost a ritual to me coming in with my little cart and taking out the art supplies, and the child is, showing up. So those things that maybe aren't so natural, we have to create. Some of the online barriers to services that I'm seeing in the home are lack of privacy. So it's just like, whoa, and we're doing a session. And then poor internet connection, older devices, stress in the household, and lack of supplies. So pretty much everything. But, that's why we're creatives, right? We get creative and we still do what we have to do to hopefully help the client. So one of the things that I use is a mirroring mandala. And basically the client and I both choose the shapes. So we fold the paper into fours to kind of give us 4 quadrants. We each pick a shape. He picks say he picked a triangle. We each put a triangle in one of the 4 squares, and we keep growing it out until we build a mandala, and this is the result. His is in the marker here. So it's kind of cool to see how and it really builds a connection between the client and the therapist. This is the same client, and this is just drawings that were coming out like in between while we were talking, or, it wasn't like a directive, and this was the first week, and then this was the third. I thought that was pretty interesting. So processing a lot of COVID fear. This is also him. He's on the spectrum, he's 13. And we were doing what you can control and what you can't. And I felt touched in my heart when you said crying, because, he's at that age where you don't want to cry, but we talked about it, and he said that's the virus. So it's been really on his mind. So that's my personal work. But one of the things that I am involved in as well is community art therapy. And I've started doing that while I was still in my master's program, when I got connected to a nonprofit called Stars of Hope. And I have been held various positions with them, and now I'm a consultant for them. In the past, I was the program manager and their first art therapist. And I've been to over 49 disasters, both human caused and nature caused. And those are like anniversaries or direct impact, things like that. So I want to tell you a little bit about this program and how we've leveraged it to bring it online and help people and continue the mission. So Stars of Hope has been around since 2007, and the mission is here to empower people of all ages to transform communities and individuals in need of hope through the power of art and the messages of healing. Create, empower, heal. So far, lots of stars have been created in 31 countries and 280 communities. How does Stars of Hope work? Well, we paint wooden stars with communities of people. This is how it works. We also give stars out. And these stars, when we give them out, are people who have survived some kind of trauma in the community. And in art therapy, we kind of look at it as a grounding object, that they have something to hold on to. A lot of times, this is the first thing that someone will own after some natural disaster. And then we hang them in the community. So we've got 3 aspects to it. There's many aspects to Stars of Hope, but I'm really going to focus on a very narrow window for us today, because it's. So this is after Hurricane Michael. I'm not sure where this one is, but after a fire. So people come home to check on their property, and there's a Star of Hope. And a lot of times those were created by someone else who has survived a disaster. So all people are painting them, but we definitely go in and support communities, and then we pay them forward. So it's a full circle model. And we have an impact study from FSU. And we see that 84% of people feel supported by seeing the stars. They feel connected and comforted at 75% while creating stars. And 92 felt more optimistic just being involved. So we know that Stars of Hope really helps people feel part of a community and feel like they have some control over something when these disasters happen. And I think we're all kind of feeling that right now. So like I said, the stars are wooden and painting on stars, right? So Stars of Hope bus, this was the next thing. It was added in November 2019, and the Stars of Hope our goal was to have one paint before the end of the year, before the end of 2019. I think they ended up doing 15. So it was going all across the country. So this is another avenue that we use to create hope within the community. And we look forward to the day that's back on the road. So COVID happened, and we decided, Stars of Hope decided to stop shipping the stars for a time because, we didn't know how the virus was acting on surfaces, et cetera. So we wanted to be safe. And we had this paper template that we had used in the past with teachers. So we would send it with a lesson plan. There would be the star, and then they would do like the 5-point breathing technique with them. They would do a mind map, learn what is hope, brainstorm, and then they would paint their stars. So they changed it up, and they changed it to I created Hope for, and started making stars. And I think this is Fran's, she's on the team. And this is a team of 5 people. So I do want to say at this point that there is nothing more valuable to the team and the work that we do other than the volunteers and the people that create the art. Like, we could do nothing, very little, without all of the people that get involved with us. So it's really not so much about us. We're kind of just the vehicle or the star, that we're the outline. So I think Fran did this, and it got sent to a hospital. And do you see it's in black and white? So this was kind of the idea. Okay, we can't do it in person, and it's a big loss, right? When you see that much human contact that we've had. Here we are now sitting at home. This is our director of operations, and he created a star. Just people that have been involved with us for a long time started creating stars, and some of them came all the way from Italy. Our executive director connected with the Dance with Italy people, started building a relationship with them. And those pictures, I just think that's so beautiful. So we've had stars in Italy, Australia, Canada now, and all across the United States. So I hope that more people will be inspired to create hope. Here, again, this is a woman in an elderly care facility, paid forward to someone at her local hospital. So some of them are getting delivered by hand, and some of them are coming through the internet. There's that flower one again. I hope that I am leaving time for questions. So people are creating hope for pharmacy techs, healthcare workers, the military. And therapeutically, like from an art therapy perspective, it's really interesting because a lot of times the star, we think of that as the containment for the art. But as you can see, and you can see it if you go on our Facebook and look at all the different stars, they're starting to just overflow the star and then go to the second containment phase, which is the paper. And we're seeing them like with fiber art and just all the things. People are using all different materials and textures. And so it's really pulling the creativity out, I think. This is a nursing home and its residents, nursing care. So, we had a discussion about, so many people don't have internet, and how are they going to have access to this? And this is what someone came up with that doesn't have access to internet. I'm not sure how they heard of this. I think this was done during Kelly's live Stars of Hope creation, which I'll tell you about later. But I just think that, we're thinking getting in touch with teachers, because some of them are delivering packets to the kids. So putting them in there and just really leveraging our community partnerships. This is just the stars put in windows to inspire delivery drivers and hospitals and just people walking around outside. So people are getting really creative. We're partnering with different people. UCF has taken it on to provide hope for people around them. That's where I met Kunle. Kelly and I did a Stars of Hope event there, and that's how I got connected to him. What else do we have? So the mission continues, and we have this. And the way that you get involved is just message us. You can go to Facebook, you can go to starsofhopeusa.org, and you can sign up, and a star will be delivered to your inbox. If you want to work with us more directly, I will put all the information in the last slide, which I did not do, but I will. And I wanted to introduce Kelly to you. She is the art therapist now and the program manager for Stars of Hope, and she's amazing. And she leads the live Zoom sessions on Thursdays. So we want to invite you all to that. If you're interested in coming to that, that would be amazing. Just to hang out and draw and talk. And I think she's going to put the link in the chat. And I think I talked really fast. Sorry. So we're also taking all the paper stars and we're creating banners, and those banners are going to be mailed to different hospitals and different places, and they'll be hung up so that they will have that ongoing visual support. And that's what I got for you. Do you have any questions? Oh, thank you. I don't know why I'm so nervous. I think because the whole team's on here.
You can stop the share. You can stop the share of your presentation so that you can get to see everyone.
No, stop
Thank
it.
you.
Okay. Am I good?
Yeah. Thank you, Stephanie. That was wonderful.
You're welcome. Does anybody have
You
questions?
didn't tell us you were nervous. We would never know.
Isn't everybody a little bit nervous when they do this?
Of course.
Okay.
Go
ahead.
Stephanie, I found I put in the link. I'm hoping this is the right thing. Is it from the Center for Criminology and Public Policy Research? The study that was done about Stars of Hope. Okay, great. I put that in the chat for people.
And I think, I don't know if Kelly put the invite in there, but I hope that some of y'all will join us to make stars. Does anybody have any questions about anything? Okay. Oh, I'm not supposed to be, sorry. Someone has a question.
Ephraim, go ahead.
Okay, thanks, Jenny. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
Thanks for the presentation. I'm from Ethiopia. I basically work on mental health. I study psychology, but also I'm focusing more on trauma healing. We do therapies in a circle, as in group trauma healing.
Yes.
But as a child, also when I was a child, I was interested in art, but it didn't happen. I was talking to Kunle about this. So now I'm asking. We have a lot of refugee camps, or for camps for displaced people in Ethiopia.
Yes.
For more than, I would say, 1 million people. So I got the chance to go to those camps and do a trauma healing, not through art, but through trauma healing tools from mental health. So for you, what's the most sound or the most interesting thing to implement while doing this? What kind of, for example, some people say music therapy is really helping people in the displacement centers, in the refugee camps or somewhere, for trauma healing. Some other people say, oh, painting works really good with kids. So what really resonates for you, and how do you do it? If you just give us some ideas about this trauma healing, because I'm really interested in trauma healing programs.
So, I think the first thing that you always have to do with anybody that's experienced trauma is get them in attunement, so get them in their body. So like with Stars of Hope, we use the star and we do the 5-point breathing, right? So breathe in, breathe out, breathe in, breathe out. We want to get people in their bodies. And then people doing like a similar project like the star gives them a sense of community, which they already have a pretty strong sense of community. I'm understanding about what you're saying. And then painting, it can be good. Painting really activates people. They will tend to talk 3 to 4 times more when they're painting. So you actually can get people talking about things without really being direct about it. It'll just start flowing. Like this is the first, some of them when they paint, it's the first time that they've had a joy since an incident happened. So it's like almost giving them permission to play again. But, I think getting them into the body, and you can play music and breathe and move, and then bring in the art piece, and that's the expression. Yeah. Does that help? You can reach out to me as well anytime.
Stephanie,
still
I have a question
Yeah.
for you. And maybe I was so excited about your talk, maybe I missed it. But if you're somewhere in a place, like if you have a bunch of students who want to get involved, but they don't know exactly who they want to send stars to, they can connect with the organization, and then the organization will say, these are the people that are needing stars that you could be making stars for? Or do you directly come and say, we want to make stars for this group of people in our own community? I mean, in terms of how much is the star making in this new, maybe virtual world, shifting between countries, or is it mostly within specific communities talking to each other? And how does that?
I think it's wide open. I mean, we have people make stars for their place up the street. We have people, we don't really have parameters on it, but if you have someone that doesn't have a place for their stars to go, we will find a place for the stars to go. That's what we do. We have right now we have a bank full of the wooden stars that people have painted from different events. And when something happens, we activate and we send those out into a community. So some of the paints we do, we have a specific population in mind. Others we keep on hold for if something happens. And the paper stars, I mean, I'd love to see them flying all over the universe. I mean, I'd love to see wooden stars flying all over the universe too, but right now we can only do paper. So however you want to get involved, the team is open. They're working hard. It's a very small team, like I said, so we can't do it without all of you.
Cool, thank you.
You're welcome.
Stephanie, I think there's someone who dropped a question in the chat from Solly McDaniel. The question is, can you expand a little more on what an art therapy session online looks like?
Okay, so typically I will let the guardian know sometimes the day before what we're going to be working on, like what materials we need. I have most of my clients that I'm seeing now I've been seeing, so I kind of know what they have and what they don't have. And then I have set up back here, I have 2 cameras, so they can see my face, but then I can also switch the camera and they can see my work down here. So art therapy, we have to remember, is about the process. So we're not focused on a product, we're focused about the process of it. So the child is there, and a lot of times I will begin with a breathing or a movement or a song or humming, just something to create attunement in their client, in their body, and then the relationship between us. And then I just move into a directive, and I work kind of intuitively. I mean, I have ideas in my head, but I work intuitively in that I have to kind of see where the client's at. I'm definitely not this is what we're doing today and can't change. Or I would have never gotten those drawings you saw in the beginning of the child drawing the coronavirus, you know, like I would never say to a child, hey, draw the coronavirus. So it looks like that. You know, I'm trying to take them on a small journey within a 45-minute window. And right now we're working on basically coping skills, staying grounded, reducing anxiety through making art. And then try to close it up. You know, you always have to close it up. And we do that again by some kind of attunement and a little bit of processing. Does that help?
Thank you. That's
You're welcome.
great. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephanie, for that presentation. That was wonderful. There
Thank
are
you.
more questions in the chat group, but I will defer that for you and the folks who are asking the questions to kind of get those answered. That's okay?
That's fine.
So we will have a performance by Ricky Kendall, who is an artist in residence at UF Health Hospital in Gainesville, Florida. He worked with a wonderful team of artists to facilitate artistic engagements with patients. He is a singer-songwriter and a visual artist as well, who witnesses the connective power of art every single day. So with that, I will hand it over to Ricky Kendall.
Hey everybody. Can you
Hi,
hear me?
how are you?
Hi, Ricky.
I'm good. Good to see you all.
Good to see you too.
I'm gonna play a song that I just recorded for our Aim to Connect page for the hospital, and it's one that came to me just thinking it'd be a really good song to do in the midst of all that we're all going through. So I think you all recognize it. It's called True Colors by Cyndi Lauper. You with the sad eyes, don't be discouraged, though I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people You can lose sight of it all in the darkness inside you. Can make you feel so small, but I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like a rainbow. Show me that smile, Ben. Don't be unhappy, can't remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world has gone crazy and you're taking all you can bear, just call me up and you know I'll be there. 'Cause I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like a rainbow. I would love to see you laughing, but if this world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear, just call me up and you know I'll be there. 'Cause I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful like a rainbow. Like a rainbow. Thank you guys.
Oh,
Thank you so much, Ricky. That was beautiful.
My pleasure.
So with that being said, we will move on to our next speaker. It is Brittany Cleland, and this is a dance of resilience for families. Take it away, Brittany.
Right. Thank you. I'm so honored and blessed to be here today with all of you virtually in this experience, not just today, but over the next couple days. I just want to give gratitude and acknowledgement to Kunle for putting this together. So thank you very, very much. And Stephanie for that amazing presentation as well, because it's just linking straight to what I'm about to do. So as a dance movement therapist, I use music, rhythm, sound, our bodies, our breath, to provide an experience for connection. So I would say I am a trauma-informed dance movement therapist. So I help people move through trauma at any level from 0 to 90, 100, you can name it. Been in hospitals, pediatric oncology, heart transplants. Oh yes, let's thank Ricky again. Sorry, because we gotta give him some love. Thank you, thank you. He's gonna help me out here as well with all of you. You can still hear me? Yes, awesome, great. So going through that, I got the wonderful experience to work with Ricky at Arts and Medicine in one of my internships as a dance movement therapist. So we collaborated together. He would play and I would lead families through a movement experience. So right now what we're just gonna do is I'm gonna ask him to play for us to settle and ground, because for us to move, we need to feel safe in our bodies and safe in our environment, right? So he's just gonna play a little acoustic. I'm gonna have you take a couple of breaths on your own, at your own pace. And and then start to see where your body wants to move to the rhythm, if it wants to move. And just breath is valid and okay. If you want to shut your video off, you're more than welcome to. You don't have to. It'll only be probably about a minute of us just relaxing and grounding into our space again. So take it away, Ricky. Start by taking a few breaths. Inhale. And exhale. And welcome some movement of the spine, maybe loosening the neck. Maybe loosening the shoulders. Connecting to your breath. What other parts of your body want to speak? Do they need a stretch? Now find yourself to connect to the rhythm. Whatever that is for you, if that's breath, your rhythm of your blood pumping through your veins, finding some stillness here with the next couple of tunes that Ricky's going to play. Bringing your hand to your heart, if you would like. Give yourself gratitude and love for showing up here today. And everyone else, gratitude and love for being here today. And take 3 deep breaths together to end. Inhale through the nose and exhale out. Feeling your heart pump with vitality and love. Again, inhale and exhale. All right. Thank you for indulging me, and thank you, Ricky. Let's give him some more praise. Awesome. That was really last minute. I just texted him before this and said, hey, Ricky, can you help ground the group with me? And so thank you, Ricky, for being a part of this today. Love it. All right. With the time that we have left, I'm going to take you through a couple of slides, and we will also do another movement experience just so that you can experience it, because talking about it as a dance movement therapist, I can show you and give you the how-tos, but it's another thing to kind of put it together. So we're going to do another collaborative experience, but it's going to be through words and poetry with a little bit of movement. So Let's go into my slides here. Let's share the PowerPoint presentation. All right. So begin from the beginning. Can everyone see the slides? Yeah? All right. So this is a dance of resiliency. One of my favorite quotes from The Art of Seeing is, consciousness is only possible through change. Change is only possible through movement, right? And we're kind of in that right now with COVID. We're all trying to create something new, right? Not necessarily, but together as a collective, right? We're changing how we're going to be moving forward, even after COVID right now. And we're bridging connections through the arts. So that is kind of what we're going to be doing and talking about today. And what we have been doing this whole time. So thank you to Jill, if she's still on here, from yesterday, and Dominic from yesterday. Both of those were amazing, and it just lines it up for today. So like I said before, creating connection is one of my specialties, and that's through breath, movement, and play. But as we age, sometimes it's harder for us to move because of the uncomfortability of it, right? So when I ask people to move, I don't just say, hey, let's just jump up and down. With kids, no problem, right? They do that all day long. But we want to make sure that there's safety, right? So grounding, feeling safe. How we can do that, like Stephanie said, is through attunement, attuning with your loved ones, attuning with your family members, and a DMT word for that, so dance movement therapy word, is kinesthetic empathy, and providing co-regulation. So co-regulation, we're going a little heady, and then we're gonna have some fun, okay? All right, so attunement, making sure you see and reflect one another. And that is kinesthetic empathy, right? So we're gonna do some we won't do the mirroring today, but I typically in family sessions have people mirror one another. So if you want to, I invite you, you can mirror me. I'm just gonna move my hands up and back. With kinesthetic empathy, you're trying to find and move with them and see every detail of their body, their face, and their movement and breath, right? So even the tension and the relaxation of it. So the kinesthetic empathy can be broken down to, I teach this to nurses in hospitals so that they can have more, because nurses in hospitals, right, they run around doing their job, point A to point B, but then when they're with their patient, teaching them how to drop into the moment, how to reflect and connect to their patient, even if it is just kind of mirroring their movement or identifying how they're feeling through kinesthetic empathy. And that essentially is co-regulation. So co-regulation, I'm speaking in terms of the polyvagal theory, which are on my next slides, right here. It's terms of a mom and a baby, right? So if mom is in fight, flight, or freeze, baby then can't learn how to regulate, right? Baby then is also in fight, flight, or freeze. So I work with women in a domestic violence shelter and community outreach with parents and children, and teaching them how to co-regulate their children and co-regulate one another. So if I'm heightened, it's going to arouse someone else that's next to me, right? If I can regulate myself with breath and safety and thoughts, right? Then I can help my child or help someone next to me, help a patient regulate as well. Okay, and notice my favorite part of this slide at the bottom is social engagement, connection, safety, orientated to the environment, right? So we can't be in social engagement unless we feel safe. That's the big part there. And there's lots of sciencey stuff on the site. If anyone wants this slide, you'll get the slides. Polyvagal theory, Dr. Stephen Porges is his name. I'm gonna just give you a little thing to feel. So if you feel at the bottom of your neck here, this is called your vagal nerve, right? And this is part of the fight-flight system. And this vagal nerve goes from the bottom of the neck and the spine all the way through the heart and traces down into the belly, okay? And so why we talk about extended exhale breath work, and you can trace that if you want, just to kind of feel that. The dorsal vagal's up here, the ventral vagal is going through in your sympathetic nervous system. So when you get aroused, right, you're in that dorsal vagal mode. And then when you are relaxed, you're in the ventral vagal mode of it, right? And that's why that breath work is so important to provide safety. Anyway, has anyone felt that before? When you're in this like heightened aroused state, it's hard for you narrow down. You can't really quite open up and see others around you or connect with others around you. You're just point A, point B. Yeah. And then when we feel safe and grounded, mindful in the present, we're kind of playful. So providing safety to have that play. We want to provide that for the families, especially during this time. Next slide. So family connection, moving through uncertainty together, right? So I talked a little bit about the mirroring. These are just some things that I utilize with families, with children with autism. I worked in a dementia hospital, and I worked with the caregiver, their loved one, and the dementia patient to provide connection, especially in that disease, right? You become, the loved one feels like their loved one is no longer who they were, right? But you're providing connection even in that instance of, no, we are still a family. We are still here together, right? A lot of my work during COVID for that unit was to provide the connection virtually. So we had to, I had to work with their loved ones, getting them up and ready on Zoom, despite age, and walking them through it. And still, again, I still had to be in co-regulation with my breath to help them, being very patient of getting it up and running. But once you could see one another, my patients could identify who that was on the screen. They could still see and identify who that was. And the smiles would happen, right? And then once you're smiling, that's another kinesthetic empathy, attunement. Other people smile back. That's mirroring, right? So I would help facilitate those conversations with patients and their families virtually, because it's a new uncharted territory, especially for that population. And so that goes into the echo game, follow the leader. Kids love this part because they want to take control, especially if they're being told what to do, how to do, when to do it. And we as humans like to lead in our lives in general. So that's just, we're not going to do that one today, but it's follow the leader, kind of like Simon Says. So you go move like, and then they do their move. You have to follow, echo it, and reflect it. So part of dance movement therapy is reflection of muscle tension, movement, to say, hey, I see you, I love you, I validate you and your existence. Yeah. Then there's freeze dance, and this is one of my kids' favorite to do. So we say move like, and one of the kids gets to actually voice what we move like, and they move when the music's on, and you stop when the music's not going, right? So that goes into, I'm not going to get too heady in dance movement therapy terms, but we call it stopping, starting. So that's working on transitions. And right now we are in transition, right? As a global nation, we are in transition. So using that rhythm of stopping, starting can help facilitate more fun, playful movement, as well as more innovative ideas. So even though we might start with, let's move like water, then each kid is going to pop up and be like, let's move like this, let's move like this, let's move like this. The more it gets your brain synapses moving, every time you stop, you also get to stop, take a breath, watch everybody else, right? So I guide them into looking at everybody else's movement so that they still are in connection, because they get their own individualness and then their own connection. I was going to have us do that one today, but I have something more fun and juicy with the poetic flow. So 5 senses. This one's really great for anybody who needs more grounding. So if you're in a family setting and you can sense that the kids are going all over the place, right? And we want to provide them with an imaginary movement experience because we're still at home. We can't exactly all move out of our spaces, right? So 5 senses, I'll speak about in a little bit. Poetic flow, I'll speak about, and the family dance, I'll speak about next. The 5 senses, I have the child or the parent pick, well, where do you want to go? The beach, the mountains, someplace, campfire, right? So they get to choose, and then I say, what does that look like? And we come up with a bunch of words for it, right? What does that sound like? And you come up with a bunch of words for it, right? What does it smell like, taste like, and feel like to be in that instance? And then we guide them through, and I help them with the movement. So if I said, what does the beach smell like? Can anyone pop into the chat and, oh, wrong one. Pop into the chat and give me a response. What does a beach smell like? Chat. Okay, so we said air, salty breeze, the sea, salty, I love it, seaweed, I love it. Okay, so we're just gonna do crisp, fish, wet sand, coconut, amazing. We're gonna briefly just do the smell. You can keep bringing them in. So we come up with as many ideas as possible. Freedom, amazing. And then I have them move it, right? So the ocean smells like salt. Ooh. Maybe that. The ocean smells like freedom. And then you move, what is freedom to you? So everyone is going to look different. You don't have to do what I'm doing, right? And the ocean smells like wet sand. So how does that make you feel, wet sand, right? The kids love this because they get all excited and into it. And then at the end, I take them through a guided meditation. Yeah, any questions on 5 senses before we move on to our poetic flow, which is very similar, but yeah. Oh, the breeze tickles the hair on my arms, the sunshine feels like, oh, my time is up. Can I do one more thing? Very briefly? Yeah, okay. Okay. Can I show I'm gonna show the slides. And then I'll be done. So poetic flow, I would have us list all the things that come to mind with this and come up with a poem together and then move that poem. So these are just ideas that you can do with your loved ones. Our family dance, again, it's your individual creates a movement. You reflect the movement. We combine it. You sequence it. And then that bridges the connection of the family. So that's what I've been doing in my COVID response time. If you want to find me on Facebook, I'm going to start launching some Facebook Lives. You can find my name. And yeah, I'll provide some other resources from an organization that I'm currently working with tomorrow when they're ready. All right. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing.
Thank you so much. That was awesome. Loved it. So up next, we have 3 panelists. Each panelist will have 10 minutes. Kunli's on top of me. He's like, Ruth, are you observing? And I am, Kunli. I am observing the time schedules. So the first topic is Stuck in the Middle with You, Music in Times of COVID. This is going to be with Dr. Jenny and Cheyenne. Take it away, you guys.
So, Dr. Ruth.
Yes.
And thank you, Brittany, and thank you, Stephanie, and thank you, everyone. Can you hear me all right? Thumbs up? Cool. All right. So my name is Jenny Gubner, and I'm an ethnomusicologist and violinist and faculty member at the University of Arizona, where I run a new interdisciplinary graduate program called in Applied Intercultural Arts Research. The goal of this program is to research how the arts can be applied in different realms of society to address contemporary social issues. As I can't think of a more contemporary social issue than the pandemic that we are in, I'm really thankful to Kunle for the invitation to discuss the role of music and music research during these times. I'm also grateful to have been able to prepare these thoughts in dialogue with singer-songwriter and music therapist Cheyenne Mize, who I met through our shared experience as Atlantic Fellows at the Global Brain Health Institute. One of the first things that emerged from my conversations with Cheyenne in preparations for this panel was that, in fact, it's really difficult to be a musician right now. I think we each felt encouraged in hearing that neither of us had exactly figured out the perfect musical recipe for addressing COVID. We agree that as musicians, we have an ability to transform feelings, create solidarity, process grief, educate, refocus energy, and access emotions that can be otherwise hard to find. And these skills feel a little bit like needed superpowers right now in lots of different ways. However, we also recognize that musicians are living through this mess alongside everyone else, and most of us did not receive training as to how to respond musically to a pandemic. For that reason, we named our talk after a 1972 Steeler Wheel song, Stuck in the Middle with You. I don't know if you guys know the song, but the lyrics say, trying to make some sense of it all, but I can see it makes no sense at all. Is it cool to go to sleep on the floor? Because I don't think I can take any more. Clowns on my left, jokers on my right. Here I am, stuck in the middle with you. So where do we go from here in the middle? Back in March, I created a Google Doc where I asked colleagues and friends from around the world to share songs from different countries related to COVID. As an ethnomusicologist, I was interested to hear how the world was responding to this unprecedented event. The project exploded, and today that list is nearly 50 pages long with hundreds of songs telling the story of sonic responses to COVID from 73 different countries, and I'll share it with you all at the end. From transnational hip hop and pop parodies to the sounds of hyper-local rhythms and instruments, I hear in this COVID playlist the breadth of our world's musical diversity, as well as the ways we reach out across languages and cultures to talk to each other through creative sounds, words, images, and technologies. There's songs and dances about hand washing, honoring elders, thanking healthcare workers, funny songs, sad songs, educational songs. We saw a few of them yesterday in the presentations. There's songs about hoarding toilet paper, videos of people playing their violins on rooftops, and even a song from a guy in Colombia who's blaming coronavirus for his inability to be driving around in a Ferrari full of euros. When I told my friend in Italy that I'd started this project, he laughed and responded, "Oh, you're in the song phase." We had a song phase, but that's past now. 40 plus days into my own quarantine, I realized it does seem forever ago when I started that list. Where are these songs now? Who's listening to them? I imagine some are sounding on phones and computers around the world, and others have faded into the digital stew, outnumbered by the next trending story. This made me think a lot about the timelines of creativity in the face of a global crisis. Just as I spend hours trying to teach my students that music is not a universal language, that music is made meaningful in certain times and places by certain people and certain contexts, I'm reminded that our sonic and artistic responses to crisis are also not universal. And perhaps what's more interesting is how they're changing all the time along with our changing needs. If these songs were perhaps a part one of an important global phase, what's next? This leads me to the role of being a scholar of music. As an ethnomusicologist, the kind of research I do is based on ethnography. Ethnography is a research method that involves listening, hanging out, talking, observing, and watching communities and cultures over time. Good ethnographers recognize the messiness of the world and seek to find ways to communicate that complexity to others, amplifying the voices of different people along the way. These skills are not so different from those of many artists, and the careful combination of arts and ethnography can lead to powerful modes of public storytelling. As such, I think one of the roles musicians and other artists can take right now is to be good listeners. Just as music is not a universal language, musicians are not universal either. Our personalities are as diverse as the sounds we make, and this is a really good thing. Where some of us might feel very comfortable belting from rooftops or creating trending social media campaigns, others may be home feeling uncertain about how and where to act, or perhaps sharing music in much more intimate home and community-based settings. In reflecting with the Cheyenne about responding to music in the times of COVID, one of the things we wanted to emphasize is that this is all totally fine. For those of you not quite sure how and where to act yet, my suggestion is to try being an ethnographer for a while. Listen to the communities around you, hear what people are saying, really listen and observe the actions of others and other professionals. Beyond this, remember to think about music in times of non-crisis. Chances are the best memories you have of making and sharing music with others are full of lessons and models of what we might work towards building more of in the future. So listen, talk, play, imagine, reflect, and repeat. Know that as you do these things, you will learn, and as you learn, you will be able to move towards finding your own next steps. Reflecting on the models of music making from my own past that I hope to carry into my future, I was reminded of the years I spent living in Sicily, where I performed with a group of musicians who dedicated their time to grassroots social and musical initiatives. On the walls of our small rehearsal space, packed with books, CDs, artworks, and instruments, there was an old poster of the Italian social theorist Antonio Gramsci. The poster read, "Study, we need your intelligence. Get excited, we need your enthusiasm, and get organized. We're going to need all of your strength." I leave you with these suggestions and pass things forward to Cheyenne. Thank you.
Hello out there, and thanks Jenny for the introduction and for starting us off. My name is Cheyenne, and as Jenny said, I'm a music therapist and Atlantic Fellow for Equity and Brain Health. Until a few weeks ago, I was based at Trinity College, Dublin, but have since moved back to Kentucky after the beginning of the COVID situation. And I was honored when Kunle first asked me to be a part of this panel today, but I have to say, when I first read the topic of arts, I had an immediate internal response, which was, what would I say about this topic when often I feel like I'm not doing enough to help in this moment? I see so many amazing and immediate efforts like the Stars of Hope, like the ones that so many of our speakers have brought up so far. I'm inspired and impressed by these people who are able to be in the space of reaction and artistic triage, so to speak. And I have moments when I think, what's wrong with me that I haven't figured out my place in all of this? But as we started to discuss this, was a sentiment that I've heard echoed in other places, including Michael Road in the recent Creating Healthy Communities session. And we felt like it was important to speak to this feeling spectrum of what it might mean to be an artist responding during this crisis. Ted Gioia, a writer and jazz musician, wrote an article recently in the Image Journal about gratuity and who gets paid when art is free. He talks about the generosity of all kinds of artists, makers of things, makers of music and culture and art and dance and theater. How often we give freely without expectation of gain, just for the love of doing what we do. How beautiful it is that we can give the gift of our art, but that it doesn't get used up like goods or commodities. It continues to give. It's often amplified, echoing through society like the playlist Jenny created, and influencing the world in ways we don't expect or even fully understand. And there's a weight and a power that sometimes comes with those gifts or superpowers, like Jenny has put it. And the Peter Parker principle brought to us by the artist Stan Lee tells us that with that great power comes great responsibility. And I feel like it's so important for us as artists and makers of things and musicians in this moment. because the seeds we sow now have the capability of growing into or influencing the ways in which entire systems and societies are reimagined and reformed. They are the ways we will cultivate resilience and facilitate recovery, like Jill Sonka talked of yesterday, and the scaffolding for lasting change that Dominic Campbell mentioned that we so badly need moving forward. I want to bring up a brief personal example of a project I was a part of to talk about the importance of taking time and care in this moment, especially when we all want to do as much as possible, as quickly as possible. Jill yesterday used the Lift Up Louisville campaign in my hometown of Louisville, Kentucky, as an example of art for resilience. And this is a really amazing effort, multifaceted citywide effort, and one that also included a song to be a part of the campaign. And this song, Lift Up Louisville, engaged 28 artists for the lyrics, the music, a video, a community source song, basically, the sales of which would go to support a charitable campaign to help our community during the crisis. And I was one of the musicians that contributed, and I was so proud of how the song turned out and how everyone reacted when they heard it. And it was just a really beautiful thing to be a part of. And then something happened. The skiff that we musicians and artists gave freely to our city was then picked up and amplified all over the country in places like Rolling Stone and PBS, the Wall Street Journal. And in the fast-paced media world, and with a fast-paced project like this, where we're all trying to do as much as we can, as quickly as possible, unfortunately, an important error was made. A majority of the collaborating artists were left off of a majority of the press in the project. In multiple articles, every single female artist was unmentioned. This could have, or perhaps should have, been a story about the beauty of collaboration and all of the amazing people who took part in the project, including people from diverse backgrounds and of many different ages. And instead, Pitchfork wrote a story about 5 white men using their celebrity to lift up their hometown. Over 20 artists in my hometown gave freely to an amazing project with no expectations, but in a moment of expediency and of carelessness, they were left out and unintentionally, definitely not lifted up with the rest of Louisville. And I have to ask myself, of these artists, who will choose to be involved in a collaborative project like this again if they weren't shown that value? How many of them will decide not to give next time because they were burned? And I'm telling this story not because I want to denigrate the project or the organizers or fault the media, but because I think there's an important lesson to be learned here. In this moment, we are seeing the value of arts in societies highlighted all over the world, and other people are seeing it too, and sometimes for the very first time. In order to continue reiterating and reinforcing this value, I think it's imperative that we not only think of what can be done as quickly as possible, but what things are we doing now that are going to set us up individually and communally for these reimagined and sustainable systems and societies that we want to live in tomorrow, where communities value and support artists, where art supports people, and where artists are supporting each other all the way around. And for me, there's just a few things that we can do to make sure that we're moving in this direction. And one is to make sure that we're working with collaborative partners who understand and honor that value and put their money where their mouth is. We're obviously not doing what we do for the money, but it's important. That value is so important. 2, that we hold true to our own values and our artistic integrity, even in the inertia of our generosity. When we want to give like this, sometimes we're going to give a little bit more slack. And unfortunately, like the example I showed, there were some things that happened that we would not have been with our set of values. And it was really unfortunate. And 3, really importantly, that we show ourselves the same generosity as we would a friend in this time. There is an entire spectrum of what it means to be an artist responding in this time, like Jenny said. And to bring it back to what she said, allow yourself this time, this space to listen, to talk, play, imagine, reflect, and repeat. And to know that as you do these things, you will learn, and as you learn, you'll be able to move towards finding your next step, because we will need those next steps when it's time to take them. And until then, I'll say be wary of the clowns to the left and the jokers to the right, and take care of yourself and your fellow artists, because until we're not, here we are, stuck in the middle together, and all for the better for it. Thanks.
Thank you guys so much. That was wonderful, Dr. Jenny and Cheyenne. I'm going to keep using that. Clowns on the left, jokers on the right, and here I am stuck in the middle with you. If this is the middle, I don't think that's such a bad spot to be right about now. So thank you for sharing that. We're going to continue on with our panelists. What does it mean to be a storyteller, and how does that relate to well-being, and how can that help connect us as artists and just people at this time through this health crisis, and how we can connect to communities. I'll turn it over to Bimola Alau, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Probably not.
Yes,
Take it.
yes, Abimbola.
Thank you.
Hi. Thank you very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Brilliant. Okay. So I'd like to share my screen. I don't know what that look like, but I'll try. So yes, looks like you can still see me.
Yeah,
So thank you very much. My name is Abimbola Alau, and I work as a community artist, a storyteller. I also teach. And I am a researcher looking at non-pharmacological approach to dementia care. That's part of my research. I want to say thank you very much to Kunle for inviting me to be on this panel. Thank you, Dr. Ruth. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Cheyenne, for the wonderful speech you have made, and very inspiring, I must say. I want to start by saying that, the crisis we have, our world has been hit by a pandemic that has left even the wisest amongst us dumbfounded, not only because of its magnitude, but the mess it's going to leave in its wake. Anxiety, panic attacks, fear of the future, fear of the unknown. And one of the questions that people ask, or one of the questions that we ask as artists, is how do we respond? And I love the way Jenny has put it that even though we don't know what we can do, even though everybody wants to do the best they can, and Cheyenne also say we want to do things fast, but we can also calm down and observe and look around us. My take on this is, what can storytellers do? How can we be of help during a time of crisis like this? Storytelling is powerful, and storytellers, I believe, can harness the power of narrative for cognitive reframing. One of the things that a crisis of this magnitude leaves in its wake is the fact that people tend to tell negative stories. Don't forget that it's almost like we evolved to tell these stories of worst case scenario. You rarely have people passing down to the next generation how to think about the best case scenario. When things like this happen, people just feel, oh, what's going to happen to me? Economic is bad, it's going to be worse. Every kind of horrible stories from hell goes through our minds. And this is where storytelling can be very powerful in the way we can support people to view situations and events and emotions in another way, by listening and then by guiding. I work as a therapist. I use storytelling in therapy. And when people come with stories, one of the things I try to do is to support people on how to change their narrative and look at, kind of disconnect from the negative mind chatter. How can storytelling do all this? I want to go quickly to just travel back in time and look at the project that I did when I was in Plymouth. Dementia was a crisis we could hardly handle. I mean, my uncle, how I got into it was when my uncle was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. He died of dementia. And my question then was, I'm a storyteller, I'm not a scientist. What can I do? How can I help? Especially because there was no drug to even touch the dreadful disease. And that was how I began to research. And I found out that there wasn't anything that could be done, other than some, antipsychotic drugs that even mess people up more than anything else. And I began to look at narrative. I'm a storyteller. And I developed a program, and a program whereby we bring storytelling to care homes and memory cafes. Storytelling is not something people think about when you talk of dementia, because people think about people, learning stories and retelling. But for me, my take is, no, we're not doing that. We are getting people to tell new stories. And we began to do this project and bring music and gentle exercise. We had anecdotal, testimonies of how people were getting better because they're more joyful. And we continued. There was a particular project that the Alzheimer's Society in England sponsored, and we had a few weeks of doing stories, and people will come in and they will start telling their stories. We just use prompts, and we start the storytelling, and we have somebody who records these stories. And these are just stories from people who have dementia. Nobody adds to it. So I collect these stories, and we created a book. The book was called Narrative Adventures from Plymouth Memory Cafe. And everybody had a copy. They see the stories that they created, and we had a wonderful time. So building on that, when this crisis started, I was thinking again, how can I respond, as a storyteller, thinking about what we've done in the past. And so one of the things that came to my mind was Gola et al.'s quote that says, storytelling is a complex practice that integrates diverse cognitive and social emotional process. Storytelling is a therapeutic tool. People can be invited to challenge their negative mind chatter. We are in lockdown. I don't have the opportunity to go around and be a performer of stories. But what I did was to use the power of the social media through Instagram and through Facebook, and share stories that would empower people. What stories do is to make people think, especially when we feel helpless. The stories that come to mind. The unfortunate thing about negative stories is what it leaves in our physiological being, because if first of all, negative stories mess up our minds, because we look around and we say, what's going to happen? We don't know. The fear of the unknown is crippling. It's not just about the, it's bad when you think about how many people have lost their lives, have lost families and all that. It's terrible. That's terrible enough. But when you then think about the anxiety, the building blocks of anxiety, panic attacks that goes into the future, it's really scary. And this is where storytelling can be very powerful. The stories we share can be powerful educators, and the human experience is highly influenced by the act of comprehending, producing, and executing stories. When I was doing my research, when I started my research into storytelling in art and medicine, one of the people that inspired me was Dr. Panush and his faculty colleagues at St. Barnabas Medical Center, New Jersey. Every morning when they do their rounds, they bring poetry and short stories to their ward round, and they discuss them in the context of the patients to see. A year after starting the program, he and his colleagues began to look at the effects of these daily discussions on the residents and their patients, and they found significant improvements in patients' health and quality of life, from hospital admission to discharge. Sometimes we stand in awe of projects like this, and we say, how does that happen? But don't let us forget that many of us understand when we talk about placebo, but the word nocebo could be alien to us. It's the opposite of placebo, and it works as powerfully as placebo does work when it's used in patients' scientific research. And so what I want to encourage us to do, especially storytellers, is that we have a situation whereby moving ahead is very scary for many people. Where do we stand as storytellers? Let us begin to encourage people to tell their stories, but listen, but also help channel, the thoughts and negative narrative and negative mind chatter towards a positive and more empowering storytelling, because we will see the effect in our physiological being. I want to leave us with something I found interesting. Again, people wonder why storytelling is powerful. I remember when scientists used to talk about junk DNA because they don't know what to do about this junk DNA that we don't use. They say we use a tiny amount of our DNA, and the rest they call it junk. But what they did not know was that this DNA does not, they don't need to decode them because their basic structure is the same as a human language. And I believe that's one of the reasons why storytelling is really powerful. When you hear once upon a time, we move our bodies towards the storyteller because we want to hear. That's why gossip is also very, although it's derogatory when we look at it, but gossip that's why it flies all over, because the power of storytelling, I think it's almost like a magnet. It it attracts us and wants to hear more, wants to tell, but let's, connect with people in telling more empowering stories about themselves. Thank you very much. I think my time is up now, and I shall leave you in the hands of able Dr. Ruth.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And what I really like is that sentence, our genetic makeup is a narrative, in nature, which alone is a powerful statement. Thank you so much for that. We're going to be moving on to our final panelists with the topic Healing Images in Global Health Crisis Photography and Healthcare with Elaine Poggi.
Yes, so I'm going to help her to share a screen from here while she talk about our work. All right? Great. Okay. Good. Very good. Poggi, are you on now?
Can you hear me now?
Yes, please. You can speak.
Okay. Yes. I want to start off by greeting you from Florence, Italy, where I've lived for the last more than 40 years. And I feel very fortunate to live in Italy, although we've had a really tough time with the virus. But it is what it is. So I'm originally from Illinois in the United States. And I want to talk to you about my nonprofit foundation, the Foundation for Photo Art in Hospitals. And 18 years ago, my mother was in the hospital, and she was in the hospital for 3 months, and she finally passed away in the hospital. And during that time, I put up my photos in her room, and there were a lot of people that would come to look at the photos, and they would talk to my mother about them. They were nature photos. And so after she passed away, I thought, well, this might be a nice thing to do for other patients. And then I created the nonprofit foundation. And so it's been going for 18 years. And in these 18 years, we have placed more than 8,000 photos in more than 400 healthcare facilities on all 7 continents. So this is a picture. This is my homepage of my website, and you can see all the different places in the world where the photos are. I think I need to update that. That was taken about 5 years ago. And one thing, it started out as my photographs because I'm a photographer, and then after about 5 years, there were so many photographers around the world that wanted to contribute a photo to my foundation. So I opened it up to the photographers of the world. And now we have more than 350 contributing photographers who have donated one photo to our foundation. And their photos are all on our website, Healing Photo Art. And these contributing photographers come from 30 different countries around the world. So it's really fun for me to communicate with all these different photographers around the world that want to help. They want to help people in hospitals or healthcare facilities. So this is a picture of our Florence emergency room in Careggi Hospital in Florence. It's been pretty busy there these last months. And I feel really, it makes me feel really good, as I'm sure it does our contributing photographers, that our photos are in the place where there's a lot of patients, a lot of doctors having a really tough time right now. So this is the emergency room in Careggi Hospital. And do the next photo. There's another photo, I think. Kunli, can you go one? Go to the next slide. Yes, that's another group of photos in the Careggi room. We've given more than 1,000 photos to the hospitals in Florence. Okay, now this is a hospital in Bergamo. I don't know if you've heard about Bergamo. It's northern Italy, and they really had a really tough time. I mean, there are a lot of people dying there. And this gentleman, Giorgio Seminati, he was 7 years ago, I worked with him, and he helped coordinate a project for 250 photos in the new Bergamo hospital. It's called Papa Giovanni, the 23rd hospital. And we had a relationship, a friendship during these years, and it was really great to give all these wonderful photos to this hospital. You can, and then I was following him on Facebook, and he was writing me. His recent message to me was that he just got out of the hospital, the Bergamo hospital, after spending 2 months in the hospital with the virus. And his nurse happened to be his daughter, which I'm sure helped him get through this. However, at the beginning, as he went into the hospital, his brother was also in the hospital, and his brother died. So he really felt this, and the message that he sent me after he got out of the hospital, he said, finally, I'm getting out of the hospital after 2 months. I felt depressed. I felt like I wasn't going to make it. But when I finally got out, I felt like I have a new life to live. So and then he sent me all the pictures from when we worked together 7 years ago with all the photos that we put in the hospital. Can you put the next slide on, Kunli, please? This is just an example of some of the photos that we have there in that hospital. So that really brought it back to me. You know, it made it really alive for me that our photos helping our friend, my friend in that hospital that was really hard hit with the virus. And that made me feel good, as I'm sure our contributing photographers. It was a lovely thing. One other thing that I do with my photography now, today, is that I'm on several chats with my girlfriends here in Italy, and also with my family in the States. And, you know, people sort of put all these things on chats that are really depressing, kind of back to what Abimbola, the lady before me, you you were saying, you know, saying a lot of negative things out there. And so I live in the countryside here, just outside of Florence, and I take walks every day. So I take photographs of the beauty and of nature around me, and I put them on these chats, and I say, just look how beautiful Florence is, and look at the beautiful flowers and the green trees and the sky. And I try to counter the negativity that's all out there with the beauty of nature. And that's my little contribution to helping people get through this mess. And I also post those photos on Facebook and Instagram, on our website, because through photography, I think it's a really, like through storytelling, like through music, it's a way to help people get through this. And I share the beauty of nature with anybody I can to help pick them up. Tiramisu, as we say in Italy. So the last slide, or the second to last, is just to finish off. There's Kunli, and we did a wonderful project with Kunli in Nigeria, and that's how I met him 3 or 4 years ago. And through him, we've placed photos in other countries, Tanzania, Nigeria, Ethiopia, and we've had a really good time. I've had a really good time working with Kunli throughout all of this. And I think that's just about it. Just end up with the last slide. This is our website if you want to check us out. If you're into photography and you want to become a contributing photographer, that's great. Just send me an email or look on our website. So thank you very much. Thank you, Kunli. It was a pleasure. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I just followed you on Instagram. Are you on any other social media?
Facebook. Okay. It's Healing Photo Art. I think we're on Twitter, LinkedIn. That's there's probably something else, but main things are Instagram and Facebook and our website.
Thank you so much. That was beautiful.
Thank you.
We'll open up for any questions or comments that any of you guys have for our panelists. Or if our panelists had anything else to contribute or ask each other, ask the panelists.
Can
I think the storytelling and they just go right hand in hand, and the dance before. It's a great way to pick people up, to help them get through it, because it's really tough. It's really tough.
One of the questions, Elaine, this is likely directed to, how do you fund the printing of the photos? Is the question that was asked by Stacy.
How do I do what?
How do you fund the printing of the photos?
I write for grants. I bug my friends to donate. Our board of directors donates. We did get a recent grant from the Boston Foundation, and sometimes hospitals, the wealthier hospitals, can donate towards the framing of it. The photos are all a gift. The photos are all donated by the photographers, so there's no charge to that. It's just the shipping, the framing, the printing. But I'm very good at keeping the price way down. So it's I do the best I can to keep it down so that we can put more photos, because I think more photos is better in hospitals.
Thank you. Another question from Joyce is, how can a hospital and or photographer get involved?
Just go to my website, it's all there. For a hospital, how to do it. For a photographer that wants to become a contributing photographer, I get so much great feedback from hospitals and from contributing photographers, because it makes them so happy to be able to help. And they're just giving one photo. It's not that they're giving their whole collection. It's one photo. And our youngest photographer is 11 years old, who has a fabulous photo. We have photographers who have already passed on, and but I keep their photos going, and so they're still on there. I have a lot of photographers who have been sick or have cancer or had cancer, who know what it's like. I have a lot of photographers that have had people, their loved ones, in hospitals. So, they know what it's like to be in a hospital that doesn't have any art. That's tragic.
Thank you so much. Abibola, did you have a comment?
Yeah, somebody's asking what medium do I tell my stories, and I wrote the wrong thing, to be honest. I'm trying to correct it now. Storyteller Abimbola.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's Storyteller Abimbola on Instagram and on Facebook. I'm there. When I'm not doing live storytelling.
Are you on Twitter as well?
I'm on Twitter. What am I? I'm trying to think what's my Twitter. I don't really tweet. I prefer telling stories on Instagram live or videos, whatever. So I'm on Twitter, and I'm trying to think of my Twitter handle now. I think it's the same, Storyteller Abimbola, to be honest. Yeah.
Thank you. Dr. Jenny, did you have a comment?
Oh, I just wanted to say that it so resonated, everything you said about storytelling, Abimbola, and it's so much what ethnography really is for me and my field, and this idea of using academia as a space where we can both be very critical in trying to understand the problems of the world, but also really pushing a little bit more positive storytelling out. I think sometimes academia gets a little stuck in a really negative cycle, that we forget the importance of telling positive stories. And also just to say that I think Cheyenne and I talked a lot about, songs and art as gift giving, that you give something in the world and you don't quite know where it's going to go. And I put 2 links in the chat. One of them is to the list that I made of those songs. And then the other was a woman from France who wrote and said she found my list and then turned it into something that she could use with middle school children to talk about art responses. And so she made this big map of the world. And so it's cool to think that when we put things on, so I mean, it's the way social media works, but I think it's beautiful to remember that the art that we put into the world, the energy that we put out into the world, sometimes takes its own little life, and whether or not it comes back to you, you know, we're lucky when it comes back around. But I think that when we keep channeling that positive stories and positive projects, that there's really a ripple effect that can be very powerful, that moves forward. So.
Yeah, I do agree with you, Jenny. Can you hear me? I can't even hear myself.
Yes.
Brilliant. But one of the things that happened in Plymouth with a project, they call it SSU, Special Studies Unit, is the way they linked to medical humanities. Mm-hmm. And I remember at that time I was lecturing at a smaller university in the same city, where I was invited as a visiting lecturer to Plymouth Uni. And I didn't know about medical humanities until then. But what they did was that they wanted artists to create design modules for the medical students. Mm-hmm. And what I created was called Story Weavers for Dementia. Mm-hmm. And these students work with me. Actually, they are year 1, year 3, and year 4 medical students. And we actually go out to memory cafes. I teach the theory in the class, but they come with me to work directly with people who have dementia. Some of them have never held a drum in their life. They drum, they tell stories, they learn how to tell stories. And I think it's the way forward. That's because I'm in academia, but I'm also a community artist. And I've always wondered how on earth, because we're stuck in our research and we don't really, many of us, well, until I changed, don't know how to connect to the community. And one of the things that came out from that was the students' testimonies themselves saying that it's going to impact on their future practice as doctors, because now they are able to understand how people function better working with them than
and I just have to say, Bola, that I do the same thing here. I teach a course about music and dementia, and I take students in to do oral storytelling about musical identities, and then we make films and we share those films, and it's that experience. I mean, the students' experience is so transformative in hearing how much it shifts their perspective to really learn to tell different stories about aging, about dementia, and how powerful that is. So yeah, congratulations on your work.
Thank you.
Other?
She's an object of photographs.
Yes, John, I see you raising your hand. Go ahead.
I think you need to unmute.
Just kidding. See, I'm catching up with technology. So I think John at Addenley has, I see him waving his hand. Go ahead, John, you can ask your question.
Dr. John Addenley. My question goes to Abimbola. I'm directing my question to Abimbola.
Okay, I'm here, I'm listening.
The presentation was wonderful.
Thank you.
It has opened my eyes to other things which I didn't know. You mentioned something about negative stories, and which I feel we need to trash, because what is happening now, we are enacting a story. We are enacting stories. What we are doing, what you guys are doing by enacting stories, with this COVID-19 is being enacted. 10 years to come, we're going to be telling stories, retelling the story, recounting it. Now, in art therapy, I think storytelling is fantastic, and it cuts across all the therapies. It is very, very important for somebody to tell stories and retell it. So where I'm going is that whether negative or positive, don't you think that stories must be told as raw as they were for healing to take place? It's a process in art therapy which leads to healing and recovery. Do you understand my question?
I do. Do you want me to respond to that?
Yeah.
I think it
I
depends
said inner therapy.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
I understand. I understand perfectly what you're saying, but I think it depends on each individual. When things like this happen, we respond in different ways. Now, for one person, a person may be strong enough to be able to look at both negative and positive and tell the stories in a way that he or she is able to. For another person, it may lead into the dark alley of anxiety. And that's when we have to take every individual as unique. And that's where storytellers also listen. Okay. So when we talk about, by the time somebody comes to you for therapy, I think it's a cry for help that this negativity is weighing me down. How can I work on it? And also, when I've been researching the brain through doing dementia research for many years, and one of the things that many researchers are not prepared to look at is the building blocks for dementia. People will tell you they don't know the cause for dementia, but we know that there is a cause for dementia. Of course, it depends on the individual, but one of the things I found out was that there's something called the tau protein, and it's not supposed to be tangled. When the tau protein tangles, it's a precursor for some form of dementia. You ask me how it gets tangled. It's by negative narrative, negative mind chatter, worry. Those are the things that does it for some people. That's why I'm coming from this angle that it depends on the individual. Everybody's free to tell their stories the way they like, but for some people, if they go through the negative pathway, it leads into a dark alley of anxiety. And that's where we have to listen to the individual, from my own experience.
Thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead. Sorry, John, go ahead. Did you have a comment?
No. I'm okay. Yeah, it's okay.
I think this is a good question, Ebola, for you.
Okay.
Someone commented, with the surge of the COVID-19, there has been a sequential increase in the spread of myths, fake news, and misinformation. How can we use storytelling to remediate this?
That's an interesting question. That always happens. And like the speaker, the gentleman who asked the question earlier, that we are creating stories. I think this is for storytelling to remediate this. As a storyteller, I think I have the responsibility to tell. So I choose a story to tell. I'll give an example. This week, I posted a story about the tortoise, the elephant, and the hippo. And what I came up with was that there are things that come to intimidate us, but as individuals, we either say yes or no to those things that come to intimidate us. And that's the story. And as storytellers, this is what we do. We just tell and allow people to make meanings from the tales. Now, we have a lot of myths, fake news, and misinformation, yes. So that is, the onus is on us to also bring out our own stories out there and tell the real story. For example, there's a Yoruba proverb that says the needle is very tiny, but it's not supposed to be swallowed by the chicken. You look at the needle as a very tiny thing, but if a chicken swallows it, even a human can't swallow a tiny needle and maybe they may not survive it or whatever. What's this proverb saying? The things that come against us, pandemics, and they are huge. They come with their own narrative to crush. How do we respond to this? That's the question. As individuals, we can decide what we want because we create narrative. There are trillions of possibilities out there in the quantum world. What are we going to connect with? That's always the question I ask myself every morning when I get up. The stories are around me, I know, but what am I going to connect with? I'm going to connect with empowerment, healing, and the grace of God that is available to me. That's my narrative, and it has always worked for me. That's how I use storytelling in my own mind chatter to retell the negative, just change the negative stories that is around me. Because if I absorb it, it cripples me physically, it cripples me mentally. I don't want that. That's how I use storytelling. I don't listen to negative narrative. I tell my own, because we've been told that we have infinite possibilities. Which of these infinite possibilities do I want to connect with this morning? And when I connect with it, I see a manifestation in my physical body and in my mental health. I hope that answers, because it's a big question, isn't it? I just hope it answers it a bit.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you for each of our panelists. We have to keep moving to our next activity, but if you had any further comments or questions, please drop it in the group or privately to the panelists for if you need more clarification. Our next activity is going to be, quick clap. Thank you so much, Joyce, for pointing that out. Our next activity is going to be with Sarah Hinz, and it is a workshop called Interactive Arts. Take it away, Sarah.
Let me first, let us celebrate all our panelists, please. Let's celebrate them. That was a very great one. Thank you, Sabine Bola. Thank you, Jenny. Thank you, Sharon. Thank you, Mama Ellen. Great presentation. Thank you. Brilliant. Thank you. Great one.
Thank you. Friends, my name is Sarah Hines. I'm an artist in residence here at UF Health Shands Hospital. If you could just take a moment to find something to draw with, something to write with, and a piece of paper, that would be awesome, because we're gonna stop listening and start doing for just a few minutes. If you have pen and paper out and you're all ready, you can maybe take a second to stretch. That's nice. As an artist in residence in the hospital, I work with patients both in workshops and at the bedside. I met Kunle through the UF Arts and Medicine Summer Intensive, and then had an opportunity to travel to Lagos to visit and work with him as a Mandela Washington Reciprocal Exchange Fellow. And I am facing the same challenges that many of you are in this time, facilitating visual art with folks remotely. And a few of the ways that I have found are to work with this medium instead of against it, and to try to find activities that are interactive within the medium of Zoom. So let's get right to it. I like doing things better than talking about things. So I'm gonna need a few volunteers from the audience, and I'm gonna need my host's help just a little bit. So if you are willing to be a 1-minute freeze frame model, you can just pop your answer, say, yes, I will, or I'm happy to, or something like that into the chat. Once we have a few volunteers, we're going to be doing a quick gesture drawing activity. If you're a volunteer that is in the freeze frame, you're going to hold your frame in some sort of position for 1 minute. Could be like this. However you'll do it, you're going to hold your position. Everybody else in the audience is going to have 1 minute to draw that frozen frame. They're going to be silly. They're going to be goofy. They're not going to be finished works of art that you frame. Maybe they will. What this is going to do is this is going to loosen up our creative muscles, and you'll find we'll move through a few participants, and you'll find a few things. One, it's an interactive way for us to work together within this Zoom medium. 2, it's a way to spotlight some of our international participants. And 3, as you move through these gesture figure drawings, you'll see them start to improve. So I have 2 screens up right now. I have one screen that's on me, and I have another screen that's on my drawing paper. And let's see. Dr. Ruth, do you see the drawing screen that I have?
I do not.
Okay. That's okay. For these gesture drawings, we'll do a sample one together. All right, we've got lots of people volunteering. So Dr. Ruth, if we could find Joyce Benanomi, hi, and spotlight her on the screen.
I'm going to request assistance from our tech help.
So Joy, oh, sorry. I'm on. The tech help is on. Joyce, you're gonna. Joyce, are you? Have you got your video on? I'm looking.
She does.
Okay.
And I can maybe I can do it. Did I do it? No. We're learning.
I think she'll have to also have her mic on.
There should be a button at the top that says spotlight this participant or pin this participant.
In the video. So everybody go to Joyce. Joyce, move your arms around so everybody knows who they're looking for. Yeah, like that. Move it around so everybody find Joyce. And in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see something that says pin video. So you want to pin Joyce so that she comes up on the full screen.
Okay. So Joyce, you're gonna pick a pose to hold for 1 minute. And everybody with whatever you have at home, you're gonna draw Joyce for 1 minute. And when we're done, as silly and as goofy as they are, when Joyce is done, because she's being really brave by modeling right now, we're gonna show her what we've created just by holding our papers up to the screen. And if you're able to turn your screen on and share this activity with us, that would be great. All right, Joyce, are you ready? Awesome. Okay, go ahead and choose a freeze frame. Timer starts now. All right, she's beautiful. This is a beautiful position. One thing when I'm doing gesture drawings is not to get caught up in the details. I'm just looking for the big shapes. I'm looking at her beautiful hands. I'm looking at the big shapes of her face. You can choose how much you want to focus on in the time you have. We're halfway there. I know some of the artists in the audience right now are amazing, even though they don't all have their screens on. I'm hoping that they join in to show us their beautiful art. 12 seconds. And that's time. Hold up. Okay, so we can unpin Joyce and everyone can hold up what they got in 1 minute of drawing. Okay, and Joyce can see herself represented around the world.
Wow.
Beautiful. You guys did such a nice job. Wow, Stephanie, you did a lot in a minute. That's great. Okay, let's just keep on moving. We're loosening up our creative muscles here. So Brittany said she could do it. And where is Brittany? Wave your arms around, Brittany. I gotta find, and then we can pin there she is. We can pin Brittany. She's dancing. She's doing a 1 minute wiggle. Okay. Everybody got Brittany? We're gonna keep on moving. Brittany, freeze frame. Oh, cool, and go.
Very interesting.
Oh, I didn't see your last drawing, Kunle. I'll have to check it out this time. We are halfway there. Doing great, Brittany. Less than 10 seconds. That's it. All right, folks, unpin Brittany and show us what you've got. Oh, I'm gonna take it back.
Oh my God, how do I unpin? Unpin.
Where am I? Can you see all of these beautiful representations, Brittany? So exciting. I love it. Okay. Yunjia, is that how you say your name?
Yes, Yunjia.
Yunjia,
Yes.
thank you for volunteering. And where did she? Oh, there she is. She's waving. Can you see her? Move around for just a second so we can see you, because we're all kind of moving through technology and space and time here. There she is.
I'm here.
All right. Oh, beautiful. And go.
Nice.
I should go mute your microphone.
You're halfway there.
She's so much prettier than I'm drawing her.
All right, that's time, folks. Let's see what we got. Oh, so beautiful. The thing about these that's so amazing is that in even 1 minute, so many of you were able to capture her sweet spirit. Stephanie said she'll do it. Where's Stephanie?
How do I show mine?
You know what I love is that I see a lot more screens on than I did at the beginning of this presentation, meaning that folks are engaged. All right, here's Stephanie with a beautiful pose. You can see she's got all the lovely pictures on her wall there.
Sorry, Sarah, which Stephanie and where is she?
She's waving her hands and she has lots of pictures on her wall. Stephanie
Stephanie Hartick?
Hartick, yeah.
Yeah,
okay. Does she need to unmute her sound?
No, I pinned her. I think she's okay.
Okay, thank you.
Not all of us have the pen functioning, just to let you know.
Okay.
Yeah, when I've done it before, I've used a spotlight function that doesn't, I think only the host can use. Anyway, let's go, Stephanie. You're spotlighted and a minute on. Here we go. Look at the sun rays. She's enveloped by the sun. That might be a hard thing to capture with 1 minute and a magenta crayon.
Oh no, this is not nice.
You're halfway there, Stephanie. Oh, so beautiful. That's time. Let's see what we've got around Stephanie around the world. Beautiful, absolutely beautiful. Okay, Joy says that she'll give it a go. Let's go back to our grid view and find Joy. Waving. I don't know.
Joy, if you don't mind just saying something, Zoom will
Oh, there
automatically.
she is, down at the bottom. Let's see, with a red outfit and a black hoodie, Joy, you see, and she's waving right now. Beautiful, beautiful.
Joy, say something and you'll show up. And everybody.
Yes, yes, I'm here.
Great. Hi.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, yes. Where are you
Okay.
right now, Joy?
Yeah. Wait, please. Okay, stay.
You
So
have
let's
to
stay
freeze,
together.
both of you.
Just stay, freeze.
And freeze for 1 minute and go.
Okay, just stay like this for 1 minute, okay?
That's it. That's it. You have to stay frozen, little one.
Just stay.
Boy, where are you in the world right now?
In Nigeria.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
You're doing so good staying still. You're both still active.
Don't touch it. If you touch it, they're drawing this. Just stay. Just stay.
You're drawing?
Yeah.
You have to stay still so we can draw you. Only 15
Come on.
seconds.
Oh,
Oh, Light. Wow, Light. That's great.
Thank you.
All right, folks, that's time. I know that was a challenging one, huh?
Here we go. Here.
Hold up what you got. Look, we drew you. There you are. Boy, thank you. Thank you for playing.
Thank you.
Oh, goodness. Okay, let's see. Who else do we have here? How about John Blatter?
You can join.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, there he
Hello.
is. Oh, he's out to sea.
Out to sea.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Okay, John, you ready to freeze frame? Oh, and go. $15 seconds. And that's time. All right, hold them up for John. Oh,
Thank you, everyone.
beautiful. Lovely. Hosts, how long do I have? What is my end time?
I think the time is up now.
Okay. I just want to mention quickly that what I'm finding in this time of quarantine, facilitating art with both young people and adults, is that people are wanting to be seen. People are feeling isolated and they're wanting to be seen. And activities like this are a way that we can share with each other. We can show what we are doing and we can help other people see themselves through this interactive media instead of kind of fighting with it, even though sometimes we have to stumble around a little bit. So thank you so much for making art with me all over the world. What an absolute honor. Thank you.
That was super fun. And I think everyone can agree that that was an awesome experience. Thank you so much, Sarah. We will have our final reactions and reflections for the next about roughly 5 minutes by Miss Camilla Rodriguez-Sackburn. So take it away, Camilla.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Ruth. And that was such a fun activity. I know we're at time, so I just wanted to share some really quick reflections with everybody to wrap up the day. I joined a little bit later, so I'm sorry I've missed the first part. But just to say what talent around the world and shining lights you all are. Today, I feel like we really heard about how we can make a positive impact based in science and art. Sorry, I'm just getting a request on my camera. Okay, we were given a tool.
Shit. Camelia, you're muted.
Oh, hi. Okay, can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Let me start again. So we were given a really beautiful toolkit or treasure chest today with 6 gems that I'd love to highlight. The first is just, from all of our speakers and performers and artists, this reminder that we can listen, talk, move, play, imagine, reflect, stay steady, and see and be seen in this moment. The second gem is use your superpowers, but take time for self-care for the long term and just to really sustain ourselves. The third is hold true to your own values and artistic integrity. Thank you for that, speakers and artists. And then use storytelling to uplift. Use your skills to share beauty. And number 6, our 6th gem in this treasure chest is create a ripple effect with our art and do. Some questions and observations that came to mind that I hope you maybe came to your minds too. We all had different observations. From when I joined from Brittany, what we heard is we are in a transition as a world. We're in a moment where we can stop and start through dance, through other kinds of movement. So let's create safety and connection. Let's think about how we can mirror each other, both physically, but also very symbolically, right? Let's listen, and we can listen with our eyes as well as we observe each other. From Jenny and Cheyenne, thank you so much. We heard about being stuck in the middle, but we can use our engagement superpowers that we have. And we also recognize that sometimes we feel overwhelmed because this is a global pandemic crisis. And we can just respond to that, recognize it, and know that we're also human. A couple questions that came to mind are how can we be ethnographers and listen to other people? And how can we engage with music in non-crisis times and crisis times? How can we give the gift of art without it being used up like a commodity? And how can we make safe space for collaboration where art is valued and all creators are recognized? Abimbula, thank you so much for what you shared. And I think really you drove the point home that storytellers can harness the power of narrative. So a question to reflect on is, how can we help people retell more empowering stories? We have that skill and that gift, and we can help others harness that gift themselves. And Elaine, with those beautiful photos, what inspiration from photos around the world that brought color and hope to hospitals where people are under extreme stress. So a question for reflection is, how can we share the beauty around us using our own passions and skills to encourage people? And then finally, Sarah, thank you for what a fun activity. I mean, truly, that was so cool. And so, just for us to take moments to be silly, brave, and to create with each other. So how can we pause and loosen our creative muscles? I wanted to go back finally to one quick thing that Abimbola shared, which is that beautiful quote, "The needle is very tiny, but it is not meant to be swallowed by the chicken." So we can ask ourselves, what am I going to connect with to empower myself and others? Kunle, thank you for creating this space for us. What a vibrant and fun and just creative second day, and really looking forward to tomorrow. And Dr. Ruth, thank you for a beautiful job facilitating and leading us through day 2. I'll pass it back over to you and Kunle.
Thank you so much. There's a lot of beauty in silence, isn't it? This is just in itself is very therapeutic. I think we should do this tomorrow for entirely 1 minute. That's how you should open up day 3. But no, thank you so much for all of you guys and for all the speakers, panelists, performers. That was amazing. I'm literally uplifted, very inspired by each and every one of you from all over the world. This is just incredible. And I'll turn it over to the man of the hour, Mr. Kunli, for organizing and for giving me this opportunity. Thank you guys so much.
All right, please let's appreciate Dr. Ruth, please, everyone, for this work, for moderating the sessions today. Let's appreciate all our speakers for today. Let's appreciate them. Tiffany, Ellen, all the panelists, great works. And I want you to appreciate yourself too, because without you, this Zoom will be empty. This room will be empty. So please appreciate yourself. Great, great. So this session is also recorded. Like yesterday's session was recorded. So by Thursday, we are going to send day 1, day 2, day 3 of the conference to us. We'll email it to us, and then you can actually access it and then find more resources. And we want to advise that all of us should stay engaged and thus stay happy. Thank you for joining us today. And we'll also probably recommend, if there are close friends of yours that you think might benefit from this, you can share the Zoom link with them, because we realize that many people are not able to get our email. Many people are not able to get our email, the Zoom link for our email. So we have about 300 people registered for this. We had about 102 people actually being able to come in. And people are still sending us personal messages. They are not able to get in because they are not receiving email from us. So we don't know what is happening. Maybe technical problem. Thank you very much for sharing your time with us. And we look forward to engaging tomorrow. Stay safe. We love you. Catch you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Please, can I say one thing?
Yes.
Please do fill in the evaluation. We will send it in the emails as well, but I put a link here, but we'll also email it. So please do send in the evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank
Take
you.
care.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.